All right. Luca Indrio of Necrot. Welcome to 69 Faces of Rock. How are you doing today?
Good, thank you.
Excellent. Tell
Is
me
is the 69 is the 69 reference what I'm thinking or something else?
about 69 Faces of Rock. That's what the name of the channel is.
Cool.
Draw your own conclusion, right? Uh, tell,
I did.
tell me about for the Lifeless Birth, your new album.
What do you want to know?
How did it come about?
Well, we wanted to have a new album because we took a long break from touring because of COVID, and we never were able to do a proper tour for our previous album, Mortal. But we also felt that it was like too late to do that. So I really wanted to have a new album. So we decided that we were gonna record a new album, and so I started writing the songs like in 2022, summer of 2022. The album was supposed to come out in 2023,
Mhm.
and then it got delayed by a few health issues we got hit with.
Um, Speaking of those health issues, I read about them. What was happening with you guys?
Well, we like just a few days before we were gonna start recording the album, I had Bell palsy syndrome, where your half of your face gets paralyzed. So we had to postpone the recording, but like the we weren't able to book the studio anytime sooner than 6 months later than what was planned. So then we had to postpone the release of the album, and so we had to postpone the tours,
Mhm.
the tours that were gonna happen with the album as well.
Yeah. How did you even deal with such condition?
Just I just waited until it went away. But it's like nobody knows how long it can take, and so it's like the fact that it happened just a few days before recording made it like just impossible to go record. It was not gonna be the you want to be in good shape when you're recording, because it's a performance that stays forever. It's not just like a live show. You fuck up an album, then everybody thinks you're a fuck up.
Uh, is that something you dealt with in the past before?
No, never happened to me before, and hopefully it never happen again.
Well, let's hope
It
so.
just happened. I don't know why. Nobody knows why.
So this is your third album, full-length album.
Correct. Yes.
Um, Do you think at this point you had fully developed your identity as a band?
Yeah, I think so. I think we always had our identity as a band, and I think that we're just getting better at what we've always been doing. I don't think I think we changed in the sense of like we improved on the base of what we were doing, because like if you listen even to our like our demos from 2012 or 2013, is like there is melodic elements, there is aggressive parts, there is some groovier parts. It's just like it was just more primitive sound wise and compositional wise. I feel like with time and having always the same lineup, we never change lineup. We're just getting better. In my opinion, we're just getting better at what we do. So like I feel like yeah, it is the most mature stage of the band as at the moment for sure.
Sure feels like it. Um, in your songs, I mean, a lot of kind of a gory stuff. What are you trying to get across through your songs?
Where do you get the gory stuff from?
Just like, not necessarily Lifeless Birth. The title is
Yeah,
that, yeah, things can get pretty intense.
yeah. The song talks about like a baby, a fetus in the womb of his mother that decides that he doesn't want to live this life. He doesn't want to live a life where you're condemned to die since day one. So he decides to just die before being born. That's like the lyrics to Lifeless Birth. I guess it's kind of gory. I see it more of like a, to me, it's a little more like a metaphorically and with symbolism, more representing more of like a psychological thing more than just gore of like because I feel like sometimes when I say gore, I always think about like bands that they talk more about violence than we do, and more like of a splatter kind of horror stories kind of band. I feel like we're more of like a little bit more of like a we talk a little bit more about reality, in my opinion, than of course, there is a little bit of like the imagery and everything that goes with metal that is definitely straight in your face and very brutal, you know. But yeah, usually when I associate like the word gore with like bands more like Exhumed or like more like gore metal kind of stuff, or like it's straight up about like killing people and entrails and splatter stuff. I don't feel like we're much of a band like that.
Now that you explain it, that makes a lot of sense. What are some things that you are personally interested, like things that later on show up in your lyrics?
Oh, like things that influence my lyrical writing. Well, it's more like, I've always been very interested in like, I've always thought about a lot about death and like, the human condition in general, like, and the way it makes you feel or the way people react to it. And then the way society and the way structure influences your way of living. And in most cases, limitates you, from discovering your real self, because out of like either necessity or commodity or circumstances, people often end up living a life that they didn't necessarily choose. It's more like what happened to them, or what necessity brought them, or fear, or fear brought them to choose for themselves. So I feel like that there is like a strong oppression over people, both given from the fact that we're mortal beings and from the fact that we live in a society that doesn't allow us to fully express ourselves the way we would like to. Like, I feel there is like a lack of fundamental freedom in people's lives, just because the way society structure is made, that everybody or almost everybody has to constantly work and produce to be able to survive. So it gives you, and then there is like this big part of society of the way it's structured, that it makes it so much entertainment and distraction is given to people constantly. So there is a lot of time of your life that goes into just work to survive, and then there is a lot of time that you spend just getting distracted. So ultimately you're left with very little time, unless you make time for it, to really think
Mhm.
and really choose what you want for you to happen, or at least what you want to try to do. And then you're more of like a victim of like, you're more just like, oh, this happened to me, and then this, and then this, and then I had to do that, and then it becomes like an yeah, you're not making a choice consciously. You're more like just pushing through life, trying to make it, but like at the end to make it to what,
At the end is always the same, unfortunately. Um,
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I feel that like that's also like a final kind of justice,
exactly.
because otherwise it's like this world is so based on injustice, and there is so much there is so much exploitation of people that suffers, and war and famine, and people that just dies, and like, so it's like, the fact that everybody gets his own similar ending at the end is almost like what a final justice, that if it wouldn't be there, I think like things would be even more horrible than what they are right now eventually.
That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of actually real things, only seconds ago we spoke about
Sure.
medical condition. Um, did you by any chance write about that? Because I would say that would be something that, you
Yeah,
know,
there is a lot of my lyrics that talk about mortality and society, and not just on this album, on the previous albums as well. They're kind of like the central topics for Necrot, I would say.
so the record is already available in the stores. People heard it. What feedback are you getting so far?
People are loving it. We're getting a lot of very, very positive feedback, especially from reviews and just like the amount of records that we already sold, and yeah, comments on YouTube or whatnot. Like people seems to be really excited. I feel like the album is is easily to remember. I think it's an album that is pretty easy to go through the whole album because of the variety of it, and like the parts that are like kind of memorable, or like riffs that they're metal is a very, in my opinion at least, the metal that I like the most is very much riff driven, you know more than like of course atmosphere and all of that, but I feel like the riff is to me is the essence of like what metal music is. And we are a band that's got a lot of riffs,
That's
and I
that.
feel that like our riffs are fun to listen to. And I think we're like we're riding the line between being an obscure band and being a fun band, because I don't think that it's like our music is boring. I think the opposite. I think it's pretty fun listening through the album without being like epi or some shit.
Um, Tell me about the album cover. It's a very distinctive cover.
Yeah, our friend Marald from the Netherlands did it. He has been doing the covers for our previous albums too, and we wanted something that represented this lifeless birth, like kind of like this agony of being alive as a mortal being in a confusing world where like cycles of people kind of like flying around this monster that like kind of represents all that is makes your life hard. And like once in a while the monster kills one of the people, like the cycle of life, and at the same time is giving birth to a new soul to participate in this circle that always ends in the same way. And on the second panel of the album, if you open the booklet, is a full gatefold image. You can see like there is ruins of ancient civilizations being destroyed, and that represent like that's kind of like came from the lyrics to the song Superior, that kind of talks like death wins over everything at the end, and even the most powerful empires or the people that feels like invincible and superior, ultimately they have to bow down to like the mortal destiny. So it's like Lifeless Birth. Like I felt that like we wanted a cover that would be of impact, and we wanted to have an image that people would like look at it, because it helps new fans discover your music. And like we also wanted it to be connected to the lyrics and to the content of the album, and I think that like we achieved that. And I also wanted to have a we also talked about that, and we wanted to have more colors that they're not specifically uh used as much in metal. We wanted it to be a little bit more like kind of like modern in a way, but at the same time have that like 80s feeling to it. So we kind of try to capture a little bit of all of that, because it's a little bit what Necrot is about. It's like we are a modern metal band because we were formed in 2011, and we're putting out this album in 2024. It's like obviously we're not a band from the late 80s or the early 90s. So it's like we are a modern band that still looks at the past in a respectful way of like influences, and also our sound, the amplifiers we used and all of that. But so it's like we wanted a cover that represented a little bit all of that.
Yeah, well, you definitely achieved that. Um, you've mentioned that you didn't get to go to a tour for the last album. So what are you planning for this record tour-wise?
We have a tour that starts June 5th and ends July 13th. We're gonna play like 36 shows across the United States and Canada, and then we're gonna go play in Europe after that. And then we're planning probably for our next fall, probably to go play some shows in Mexico, and eventually do another tour, another proper tour in the US. We're gonna make sure to go as many places as possible with this new album. We
Yeah.
just came back from a long tour with Municipal Waste and Ghoul and Daddy, and that was like over 30 shows for us, like 32 shows. And we played one of the new songs before the album came out, and we played songs from Mortal, so we got to do a little bit of that.
Um, to many people, you're still kind of a new band. So can you give me a little bit of background as to how you guys came to be?
We started the band in 2011 in San Francisco, me and the drummer, and then Sonny joined a year later. And we were heavily influenced by late 90s, late 80s, early 90s death metal bands like Nihilist, Immolation, Morbid Angel, all the good stuff, Death. And we just wanted to play like fast extreme metal music. And we did a few demos and all the way until 2015. And we self-released them on cassette. And we would trade them with other bands. And then we would do some tours where we would go and sell them. And in 2015, we got approached by Tank Crimes, our current label, that offered us to release a compilation of our demos on LP and CD. It's called The Labyrinth. It came out in 2016. And at that time, we were already writing the songs for Blood Offerings, our first proper full length. And then we released that in 2017, and it was super well received. And then after that, we did over 300 shows between 2017 and 2020 when we released our follow-up album, Mortal, and we weren't able to tour with that because of the pandemic. But we had a great response for both albums, both Blood Offerings and Mortal. We charted on some Billboard charts, and to these days, Scotty has pressed over 14,000 copies of Mortal alone. And so it's we've been playing a lot of tours. We tour with the Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, Exhumed, the Immolation, the Black Dahlia Murder, Municipal Waste, like a lot of bands. And we have done tons of shows. And now we're getting back on it. We're getting back on it. This year we're going to play well over 100 shows. And we just released a new album called Lifeless Birth. This is kind of in short, everything from 2011 to now for anybody who's new to the band.
Yeah, it looks like you paid your dues with all the recordings and the touring. So I think
it's part of it. It's why you do it. You like doing that. It's like you start a band because you do want to go on tour. You do want to record albums. So it's to me, it's the obvious thing that you would do if you love doing this. And we enjoy it a lot. So it's it never really feels it never feels like we're going to work. Sometimes you miss home or you miss my wife or but it's at the same time it's what I always wanted to do, all of us.
Fantastic. Why
also because we were doing it for years before we were even making any money, just out of sacrifices. So now that things are going well, I don't see why we wouldn't want to do this or continue doing this.
Time to kind of reap the benefits of your hard work right now.
Why not?
Why do you think it works best as a trio for Necrot?
It's always been like that. It's to be in a trio is easier because you have less minds at work. And also we've been a trio for 13 years. So it's we have a chemistry that is I don't think adding another person would help in any way but for sure to be a trio, you need a really good guitar player because he doesn't have anybody to hide behind, it's just him. But there is great bands that only have one guitar and great bands that were trios. So to me, it's just more powerful, more direct. Everybody gets his space on stage to show his performance and be part of the show actively and with the space that he needs. And I just think that is great. I think 3 is the perfect number. And it's just easier to do anything when you're just 3 people. The less, the better. I mean, less than 3, then you're missing essential instruments. But I think 3 is a great number to have a band.
It certainly works out for you. What's it like to be a death metal band and being based in the Bay Area?
It don't matter. I don't know. It's great. I mean, people have always liked our band. We never really struggled to make people understand what we were doing. And our shows have always been really fun and full of energy. It's I think the Bay Area is a great place where to start a band because there is so much excitement, there is so much history related to metal in that place. And there is so many bands, there is so many great musicians that you can find to form your band. And I think being in the Bay Area was really good for us. And I think still is, but is less how do you say, it mattered less. It's we go on tour now. It's it's not when you start a band, eventually you're playing local shows 4 or 5 times a year. Now Now we might play like a couple of times a year during the tour, and like, you know, the Bay Area is a great place. Is a great fucking place for music, and California in general is a really good place for music. He has given the world a lot, so it's like it's exciting to be part of that scene.
Um, when you guys get on stage, what does your live presentation look like?
Well, it looks like a metal show. It's like you know, we interact a lot with the people. People goes nuts, and our sound is very similar to the what you hear on the record. You know, Greg Wilkinson at the Hammer Studio is very good at capturing a real sound, and like our shows are just are very intense, in my opinion. They're very intense shows.
Fantastic. Finally, in your own words, what do you think is unique about your band and sets it apart from all other death metal bands?
Well, I think that like, you know, I feel that like, you know, what we're doing is like comes from a base that is like based on the older style of doing metal with like a more modern kind of twist. And I think that like we have a sound that is like you cannot really reconnect to any other band. You know, you can be like, oh, this song sounds a little bit like this, or I can hear a little bit of that there, but like we're definitely not a band that just sounds like another band that has been in the past. You know, there is a lot of influence that comes from many different places, and also it's like I feel that like what sets us apart from a lot of modern extreme metal bands is that we do have lyrical themes that are a little bit more direct and in your face rather than be like some abstract imaginary world of violence and stuff like that. And also it's like I think that like, you know, we are a band that is that has been true to what we like to play for many years, and we have never compromised, or we have never tried to change our sound to get more fans or shit like that. It's like I feel that like right now many bands they change a lot throughout their career. Like, you know, while I feel that like is not always, in my opinion, necessarily a good thing. To me, it's like I feel that like sometimes some bands might be paying too much attention of what the response of the people is or what's hyped at the moment. Because, you know, I feel that like, you know, towards 2016, 2017, when we released Blood Offerings, I feel that like death metal got very popular around there in a way, you know.
Mhm.
But we were already playing death metal for 6 years, and we're pretty much still doing it. And like I feel that like, you know, we are a band that is true to itself, and also it's like I feel that like we bring a little bit of like how an album release should be. We pay a lot of attention to make sure that our album is good from beginning to end. We pay a lot of attention to make sure that is an album that is made for people that listen to albums from beginning to end. It's like we don't put together a bunch of songs or just one song that is like the one that gets popular and then nobody gives a shit about the album, or you know, we don't like we don't structure the album in a way that is made to get as many fans as possible. So it's like, you know, it's like we're trying to do our shit since the beginning and we're still doing it. And I feel that like, you know, we are definitely not an experimental band. We're not a band that is trying to break grounds of something that has never been done before. Because sincerely, I don't think that exists. I think that only exists if you're trying to do something that is like based on only on the sound. There's some bands that they're mostly based on the fact that they have a gigantic sound or gigantic breakdowns or insane vocals and stuff like that. But it's like I feel that like we're a band that still cares a lot about the feelings and the emotion that a song gives you with the lyrics, with the melodies, with the intensity of it, but not just out of like, oh my god, that double kick is so fast, or oh my god, those breakdowns are so heavy, or the sound is so huge. Like we care a lot about like the emotional part of the of this music. because it's like metal is like, yeah, it does have a very emotional part of it, which is the one that I feel more connected to it.
Mm.
Chuck Schuldiner lyrics, or some of his solos, or there is some of them. Not all metal is just like macho heavy, fucking destroy everything. There is a lot to it, and I feel that like we connect a little bit more to like that side without losing that other part that is like aggression and heaviness. So I feel that it's something that like not many bands are still so interested into it. Lots of bands they're trying to be more like of impact more than of like emotions. I don't
That
know if I explained it right. I don't know.
totally makes sense. And I'm gonna actually respond to what you said. When I listen to your music, it kind of struck me with certain emotion. And when
That's
I
what we're
spoke
trying
to
to
you
do.
now, it actually confirmed that emotion. And I can only describe it with one word: sincere.
Oh, all right. Yeah. I mean, we've always been like that. Totally. We couldn't do anything else.
Yeah. Um, Thank you so much for speaking with me. Good luck with the
Thank
new
you for
record,
your time. I
and
appreciate it,
and
man.
hopefully I can see you in Chicago.
Oh, yeah, you will. If you're coming to the show, you will see us in Chicago.
Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good one.